What's up, family? This is Kristen Smallwood, and you're listening to the Thrive with Joy podcast, a special space I've created for us to come and reason together. Each week, I share life lessons and stories that challenge our perspective on how we're managing the relationships with ourselves, God, and others. I'm even inviting some special guests to help us unpack insights on how to experience lasting, harmonious bonds that abound in grace, forgiveness, and love. Let's get into it. What's up, family? Thank you for meeting me back in the room for another episode. It's been a minute since we've gathered together, so I appreciate you tuning back in. Listen, a lot has happened since the last episode. We kicked off season 3 excited and anxious about exploring this idea of familiar dysfunction and how we have adopted some very abnormal behaviors and made them common practices in our relationships. I was eager to pump out these stories to you that I had experienced or observed. I had like a whole 8-week plan to get us through the season, and I was ready. Then life happened, as it often does, and I had to shift my focus to prioritize some family needs and put a pause on season 3. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I felt guilty about that. I did. I was like, I already made a commitment to put this work out. We're already 2 episodes into this conversation. I have to figure out a way to keep this thing going. I was convinced that I could do 1,000 things at once, even if that meant sacrificing sleep or forfeiting any downtime that I might get. So be it. You know I'm superhuman, right? I can do anything, for real. Or at least that is what I thought. I was quickly reminded that not only am I not superhuman, but my natural instincts to stretch myself far beyond my limits was not only dysfunctional, but hazardous to my health. I guess I have to give my sister some credit for bringing that to my attention with her not so subtle way of telling me to rest. So here's what happened. I have spent a good portion of this year traveling to help caretake for family members. And most recently, I have been away from my home for a straight 2.5 months. Yes, you heard that right. 2.5 months away from my favorite place to be. Now, let's be clear. I wouldn't trade that time for anything in the world. It was a sacrifice, but it's always worth it when you can provide support to the people you love in their biggest time of need. But the truth is, your girl was tired. I was exhausted. I hadn't been sleeping well. Every day felt like a marathon of things that had to be done, and I was seemingly having less and less energy to do it with. So the idea of being able to finally go home and relax in my own space was giving me new energy. That last week away, I had like 6 to-do lists that I was working on. I was determined to complete all the things I needed to do to make sure my family member would be okay when I left. So when I got home, I would feel justified in all of the excessive sleeping I was going to do that following week. Like I had dreamed about all the different sleep positions I was going to try when I finally got back to my own bed. Oh, I was going to shut in like a prisoner. You hear me? The catch was, I knew I wouldn't be able to start my sleep party immediately when I got home because there were already plans in the work for my siblings to come and visit so we could take our annual trip to the fair. Now, given my mental and physical state at the time, I knew that going to the fair was out of the question for me. After being away from home for that long, the last thing I wanted to do was spend my day walking 700 miles around a fair, spending $457 on a candy apple, funnel cake, and a slice of pizza just to watch 1,000 overstimulated kids run from ride to ride while wiping their nasty germ-infested hands on every open surface in the venue. Not today. No, thank you. I couldn't do it. But I did want to spend time with my siblings, so I had to make a compromise. I decided I would stay home while they went to the fair, and then I would hang out with them when they returned to the house. Once they all headed back home the next day, I would then begin what would be my 7-day sleepathon. So it's the morning of the fair, and my family members are all gathering at my house so they can make sure all the kids are ready for this day of adventure. It was a beautiful day too. Like the temperature was perfect, the sun was shining, but there was also a light breeze blowing, so it made you want to be outside. So I'm standing on my porch with my sister, and she asked me, "So what are you about to do? Are you going to take a nap?" And I'm like, what I really want to do right now? I want to sit on this porch and enjoy this weather a bit. I mean, it feels good out here, but you can tell I haven't been home for a while. Like, look at all these spider webs. I need to sweep these down, and then I need to pressure wash this porch and these chairs to get some of this dirt off it. And then I can put my new pillowcases out here, and then I can set up the porch like I really want it to. And oh yeah, I need to wipe down these railings. And then I think once I do all that, I'll be ready to sit out here and enjoy that. Yeah, I got to get this stuff done because this looks a mess. This is ridiculous. And she looked at me with this face of confusion and said, "Why? Why do you have to do all of that before you can sit on your porch? You mean to tell me that you have to pressure wash chairs and put out new cushions just to enjoy this space? You're going to miss the opportunity to enjoy this weather in this moment because you see a few spider webs in the corner of the porch?" She was like, "If you're that bothered by it, why can't you just pick one chair on this porch, wipe it off or cover it up, and sit in that one chair for now? You've been away from your home for almost 3 months. It's obvious you're exhausted. And instead of giving yourself this moment to do nothing, you have to come up with a laundry list of things that have to be done before you can give yourself a break." She was like, "Girl, get somewhere and sit down." I was like, dang, you told me, didn't you? I mean, she got me all the way together, gathered my entire life and served it back to me in a matter of moments, okay? But I knew she was right. I was doing way too much. So I followed her advice. I covered up one of the chairs and I sat there. Now, the moment my bottom hit that chair, every muscle in my body started to relax. It was as if my body knew we were finally home. But as I sat there and tried to let the wind blow away all the tension and stress I had been carrying for the last couple months, I couldn't quite let go of the conversation with my sister. Why did I feel like I had to do all of those things before I could rest? At what point in my life had I become conditioned to believe that rest had to be earned? When did I come to the conclusion that my right to pause, take a break, or be replenished was contingent on my level of productivity? Like I was sitting there trying to figure out, when did I buy into the myth that rest was overrated and life was only sustainable if it was filled with constant activity? You know what I'm talking about? Have you ever made that mistake and taken rest for granted? I feel like as a society, we have embraced this hustle culture a little bit too hard and moved completely away from its original intent. Like the hustle mentality was always supposed to be about taking consistent, intentional actions towards turning your dreams into reality, right? It was a reminder that you will have to make sacrifices for the things you want, but those sacrifices shouldn't inhibit your ability to enjoy the dream when it comes to pass. But here lately, what I've noticed is we have misinterpreted consistent intentional actions to mean work yourself to death and then sleep when you're dead. Or rest is for the weak. Or the dream don't stop, so why should you? All of these crazy ambitions that are not rooted in wisdom. As a result, we have glorified the idea of earned rest and treated it as a luxury that should only be taken after you've accomplished a goal or completed a task. But the truth is, rest was never designed to be an afterthought or a reward for pushing yourself beyond your physical, mental, or emotional limits. It is a basic, fundamental need. Not even just for humans, but even things need rest. Like I remember I had an issue logging into my computer for work one day, right? It was a Monday morning and I had left my computer on over the weekend, even though I hadn't touched it since the Friday before. Now, when I locked the computer on Friday, everything was working just fine. So I didn't expect to have any issues when I went to log back in on Monday morning. But lo and behold, I unlock the computer and start walking through my normal steps of logging in, and I start having all kinds of issues. I'm getting crazy error messages. The screen starts blinking on and off. All kinds of weird stuff was happening. So I power the computer down. I wait a few minutes, and then I power it back up. That didn't work, and I'm still having the same issues, and I'm not sure what to do next. So I decided to call our company IT help desk to see if I can get some assistance. Now, the IT rep comes on the phone, he goes through his spiel of verifying who I am, and then he asks me to tell him what the problem is. So I explained to him all the issues I was having trying to log into my computer. I let him know the computer was working fine when I used it last on Friday, and even though it was powered on over the weekend, I hadn't used it since Friday, so I couldn't understand why it was giving me these issues. He says, okay, I'm sure I can help you resolve this issue. I'm going to walk you through a couple troubleshooting steps to see if we can figure out what the cause of the problem may be. So he says, the first thing I need you to do is I need you to power the computer all the way off, wait 1 or 2 minutes, and then power it back on. Now, I didn't want to be rude to this man, but I'm thinking to myself, why is he asking me to do this? We are wasting time. Surely he knows that this was the first thing that I did when I started having problems. Like, doesn't everybody turn the computer off and back on when they're having issues? Like, how much are they paying these people to just tell people to turn their computer off and on? But despite my intrusive thoughts, I did what the man asked me to do. I turned the computer off and I restarted it. Now, while it was rebooting, I just had to ask him. I said, sir, I did this before I called you, but I'm just curious as to why powering the computer off and on is always the first troubleshooting step you guys walk us through whenever we call with computer issues. He said, well, you will be surprised at how effective powering down your computer on a regular basis can be for its internal system. He was like, when you shut the computer completely off, it gives the system an opportunity to clear out all of the temporary data, reset the memory, and apply any new updates or changes. So power cycling that equipment forces it to reset and restart from a known good state. This is our baseline diagnostic step, and having you complete this one step alone can fix all kind of problems. And I said, I get that, but I did that before I called you. And he was like, I know, but you also said the computer had been on all weekend. And even though you weren't using it, the operating system and any open or background applications were still running. So sometimes when it has been running for a long period of time, you have to power it off multiple times before it fully resets. That's why we recommend you don't just lock your computer at the end of each shift, but completely power the system off each night. The system needs that daily downtime so it can keep operating as designed. Otherwise, it'll become sluggish, apps will start freezing up, and it can lead to all kinds of issues. Now, think about that. If we are instructed to give a computer rest daily so it can function properly, how much more do we, the people who operate these systems, need it? To be restored to a known good state when life has us feeling sluggish, frozen, and inoperable. Unfortunately, we don't give rest the same respect we give a computer reboot. We watch influencers who convince us that if you're not grinding around the clock, managing 8 side hustles, making 7 figures a month, then your life is insignificant. Companies that suggest working 60 and 70 hours a week is required to gain any real financial benefits. Even family and friends who feel like if you're not busy, then you should be available to respond to their every beck and call. And we are constantly being overwhelmed with the guilt and anxiety of feeling like we are never doing enough. Nobody talks about the burnout and breakdowns that happen as a result of all this hustling. Rest is supposed to fuel the hustle, not be aborted by it. But instead of promoting rest, we find ourselves in a time where we are encouraged to just crash out. People rather see you completely lose yourself than to simply say, hey, you need to get somewhere and sit down. Let rest do what it was supposed to do. Give you the space and time to restore your energy, process your thoughts, and regulate your emotions. So how do we break this dysfunctional behavior of viewing rest as a reward and establish a routine of rest that allows us to reconnect with our inner selves? Here are a couple things that I'm learning on my journey to make sure I'm giving my mind, body, and soul a regular reboot. The first lesson I'm learning is that I have to define what rest looks like for me. When I look up the definition of rest, it has many meanings. It is freedom from activity or labor. It's also peace of mind or spirit, to be free from anxiety or disturbance. And my favorite definition is that it is a period to regain strength. all of these definitions tell me that rest is not just about doing nothing. Now, sometimes that's exactly what it is. It's a time for you to just sit and be. Now, according to neuroscience, there are actually parts of our brain that become more active when we're at rest. When we take the moment to step away from the constant doing, our brain kicks into gear and starts connecting ideas and reflecting and creating. You ever been wrestling with an idea or a decision and you just couldn't quite figure out where to land? Then you take a nap or go to bed for the night and wake up to new perspective and clear direction? So, yes, sometimes rest should look like doing absolutely nothing. So, your brain has the time to do like the computer and wipe all that temporary data, reset your memory, and restore your thoughts to a known good state. But what does doing nothing look like for you? It doesn't always require a long time, it just needs to be intentional time. I mean, that could look like sitting on your unswept, unwashed porch, catching a breeze, and watching the cars go by. It could also look like closing the blinds, turning the TV off, and taking a nap. Or it could look like taking a ride in your car, taking that walk, or soaking in a nice hot bath, watching your kids play, whatever it is that allows your mind to wander and revive your creativity and generate fresh ideas. Now, in other instances, rest is more about stepping away than it is about doing nothing. Stepping away from things and people that interrupt your peace of mind. Now, that can look like literally unplugging and taking a break from all things technology, turning the computer and phone off, avoiding social media and news outlets, turning the TV off, completely disconnecting from the things that keep us overstimulated and reactive. You may still be completing tasks and working on activities at that time, but you're resting from all of those external influences that keep us out of alignment with our purpose. You're trying to figure out who you are and what you need to be doing in this season, but you can't even process those thoughts because you're taking in too much outside information. In times like that, you need the kind of rest that frees you from disturbances. That may require you to rest from unnecessary conversations. You ever just get tired of talking to people who don't listen? Or trying to explain yourself to somebody who has already made a judgment about who they think you are? Listen, get somewhere and sit down, okay? Put those conversations to rest and regain your peace of mind. Now, the second thing I'm learning is once you know what rest looks like for you, you should not only take it, but plan for it. So I was studying the Bible and I had this thought about how God approached rest, right? So the Bible talks about how he created all of the heaven and all the earth in 6 days and then he rested. Now, my initial interpretation of that was that he took a rest because of all of the work that he had completed in the previous 6 days. So he was giving himself a reward for completing his vision, right? In other words, he took rest because he had earned it. When I thought about it a little harder, though, I realized that that wasn't even on brand for who God is. He is a strategic planner who thinks of every single detail in advance and prepares for the outcome before the mission even begins, which means he didn't get to rest, he planned to rest. It was part of his restorative process before he ever started his work. He knew exactly what he would be doing on that seventh day. He had a cycle already built in that included time to create and time to rest. That is the same approach we should be taking in our lives. Rest should be a pre planned step in our process of reaching any goal. You want to be a great parent? Plan moments of rest so you can be energized and clear headed when dealing with your kids. You want to have a successful career? Plan points of rest so you can ignite your creativity and generate fresh ideas. You want to experience financial freedom? Plan points of rest so you can process your thoughts around how to best manage your money and come up with new strategies. You want to be a good husband or a good wife? Plan points of rest so you can regulate your emotions and control how you react to your spouse. If you wait until you need rest to take it, you're already at a disadvantage. Like, I was talking to a nutritionist one day and they were explaining to me the importance of drinking water throughout the day because I struggle with that, right? Like I know that I need to do it, but I struggle to get it in. So they were telling me if I wanted a healthier, leaner body, then I had to incorporate water into my diet and I had to do it consistently, right? So I'm telling them, listen, I get it. I understand that. And I don't have a problem with drinking water. I just struggle to get a lot of water in throughout the day. And I usually wait until I'm thirsty to even drink. So they said, well, that's the problem right there. Because by the time you feel thirsty, your body is already mildly dehydrated. The I'm thirsty signal is only triggered in your brain when the fluid levels in your body are already out of balance. When you're taking in water constantly throughout the day, you help avoid throwing your body into a state of dehydration. So you should plan to sip on water all throughout the day instead of waiting until your body is already in a deficit. And I believe the same thing is true when it comes to rest. Like by the time we feel tired or exhausted, our bodies are already out of balance. That's why it's best to incorporate small points of rest throughout the day. That is why companies are required to offer breaks to employees if they work so many hours. Again, that doesn't mean that you have to go to sleep. It just means that you have to figure out what are those things that allow you to take a brain break and make it a part of your everyday routine. Now, the last thing I'm learning in my attempt to establish a routine of rest is to protect the rest I have planned for. Why do all that work planning if you're not going to actually do it, right? We have to treat rest as a non negotiable. Too often, we sacrifice the very thing that is designed to sustain us. I'm learning to treat my rest time the way I would treat an important meeting or an event. Letting people know, hey, I'm going to be unavailable for the next 10 minutes or 10 hours or 10 days, whatever time you have blocked off, and commit to following through with that plan of resting. People might get mad that you've chosen to honor yourself and set boundaries around how you're utilizing your time. Let them be mad. Because the truth is, if you don't respect that time, neither will they. I remember when my grandmother was seemingly stressed or overwhelmed, which you didn't see often, but when she was in that state, she would say, you know what, I just need a few moments to rest my eyes. And I always thought she meant that she was going to just go to sleep, right? But she literally would just sit there awake with her eyes closed, not trying to sleep, but just giving herself a reset. We all knew during that time not to try and talk to her or disturb her in that moment. And if you did try to talk to her, she would ignore you until she opened her eyes again. And when she finally did open her eyes, you could tell she was ready to tackle whatever task or issue had been waiting for her. I never understood what that small act did for her until I got older and started experiencing how stressful life could be. And then I started doing it myself. I realized that that quick moment where everything goes black and your body starts to relax, and it feels like someone turned the volume down in your ears and you feel completely isolated from the world and everything in it. You can literally feel the tension rolling off your body. I was like, oh man, this is powerful. Something that simple can change the direction of your whole day. What I should be doing is starting my morning with those type of restful activities and easing into my day, allowing my brain to fully boot up before I jump into activity. Like I am notorious for grabbing my phone as soon as I roll over in the morning. Anybody else like that? Like whether I'm checking to just see how many more minutes I have before I actually have to get up, or trying to see what calls or messages I missed overnight, or trying to figure out what's on the agenda for the day. Sometimes just curious, or better yet, nosy about what new foolishness has hit my social media feeds. Like I have a bad habit of prematurely interrupting my rest. The truth is, my rest doesn't stop when I wake up. It stops the moment I'm ready to move with clarity, peace, and purpose. So, starting my morning with rest could look like just lying in bed in silence, breathing deeply, allowing my mind to wander, and listen for what instructions God might be whispering about how I should approach my day. It could look like doing light stretches, trying to loosen your body and your muscles so they don't ache when you actually do get out of bed. It could look like a mirage of things because, again, everybody has to define what rest looks like for them. But the intent is to allow rest to energize your morning and using that same approach when it comes to winding down at night. We got to get better at protecting these sacred times so we can get the refilling we need to move forward. Listen, there's a quote that says, "True rest isn't confined to a moment, it's a mindset," which means it's not just about the actual breaks and pauses that we take, it's also about how we live, move, and think. It's a state of being and belief that you can be restored and replenished, whether you're taking a nap or in the middle of your hardest battle. You don't even have to earn it. No sweeping, power washing, or decorating required. You can simply sit in the truth of God's promise that when we come to Him, He will give us rest. A spiritual reboot that clears our mental overload, cancels our emotional glitches, and relieves our physical fatigue. Now that's the kind of restart I'm talking about. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with a friend. Post about it on social media, or feel free to leave a rating and review. And of course, follow or subscribe to the Thrive with Joy podcast on your favorite streaming platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts, to make sure you're notified when new episodes are available. All new episodes are released on Mondays. Until next time, family, I pray that God bless you to live in peace and thrive with joy.